Okay, I'm here for another episode of Reflections, and this one is going to be with Vicious, who is an old school dueler. Primarily, we remember him best from Unreal Tournament, but he also played Painkiller, and he's from Italy. And where I want to start this interview is, so I remember in the very early days when they had the Unreal Tournaments, and primarily the Unreal Tournament competitions were the World Cyber Games. That was the big major, that was the one that everyone wanted to qualify for, and then if you qualified, hopefully, if you're a good player, then you want to get a medal. You know, that was the main goal of most people. Now, I know that they had Unreal Tournament actually for longer than Quake because they went into the sequels of Unreal Tournament. So actually, it was one of the main duel games at the time. But since they had Quake in the early days, I know Unreal Tournament wasn't at the same scale as Quake. It was like a sister game, but it was a little bit less popular. But I remember watching some of these tournaments back then, right? When did you actually first get involved with like the duel side and the competitive side of Unreal Tournament?
Well, I remember, it was a long time ago. I was a console player, around 17 years of age. So I used to go to my high school friend. He had a computer, and he would show me a real tournament played online. And for me, it was fascinating to the idea, the concept to be able to play against opponents from all over the world. So before turning 18, I asked my friends to give me a hand and set it up to build a computer. And 1 hour before my birthday, I was like online connected with the computer, playing online with my friend that after would become my teacher. And from there, well, I sucked. I was very proud because I played video games all my life since I was 6 with an Intellivision. And I mostly, I don't know, I'm like, I love video games and I love esport, and I consider them platform software, complex software, and where your skill are tested on problem solving. So I played on any kind of platform, games from the 80s, 90s, 1000, whatever it is. When I started playing with keyboard and mouse, I was a noob. I never used a computer before. I bought the computer to play Unreal Tournament. So I was pissed on the first game because my friend was like, "Nah, stop typing. I will phone you on. I will call you on the phone because you're too slow." Okay. And so I decided to play offline. I remember it for 3 months. A lot of hours every day just to practice movement, coordination. And after 2 months, I started playing online on a single map all day long until the best player of Italy. We met. I don't know, as a matter of like, I don't know, wasn't scheduled. We played together. I lost like 10-6, but he was very impressed by me, so asked me to join his team and become my teacher. It was a different time. Players had the teacher. It was very romantic.
Sure, yeah. Sounds great. Right. Okay, I have a question then. So as you mentioned there, that you saw games as a platform, like a way to show off your skill. This is actually a concept that I actually remember hearing by Joe Rogan, actually, the guy who hosts those podcasts, who's obviously very interested in multiple disciplines, comedy, mixed martial arts. And he once said that he thought the purpose to life, like his purpose to life, was basically the idea that you find something that kind of can be the vehicle for your human potential. So it could be anything, you know, it could be like a guitar, it could be something very abstract like mathematics or something, you know. But the idea is it's not really the thing that matters as much as what you can do with it, you know, what you can express about yourself. So I realize now with esports getting very big, people might be a little bit more open to this concept, but that's quite a unique way to think about games from such an early period, right? A lot of people even playing probably just thought this is a fun game or I'm good at it, right?
No. Yeah, well, to me, it was a learning process. When I was a teenager, I didn't know passion. Gaming and competing taught me this aspect. A video game, as I said before, is a platform. You can to me, it was a mirror. I always spoke about this passion for competing and using a game to express myself. It's just a platform. I can, as you said, I can be a painter, I can be a driver, whatever it is, any job, because I like a quote from a book that is Psychology of Poker, whatever it is, and it says that the truth is that the man that give dignity to the job by doing it in a certain way, you know, if you put your mind, if you're a professional, you will find you will feel accomplished, a sense of self-realization. I don't know if my English is perfect.
Sure, yeah, makes sense.
And for me, gaming was very important. For me, gaming is very, very important. It's something I address to on my stream. The fact that it helped me develop into a man also. It taught me about my limits, you know. You will discover while playing on a high level that you will be afraid of some things, that maybe you are a coward. You will maybe like you will act like a coward in under certain particular situation, or like if you have a lot of stress, or maybe you will be you are a calm person and you're dueling and you turn up to be a very aggressive player. There are a lot of sides, but overall, yes, to me, gaming a esport, I say that is like is in English is complicated. Is a fair platform for competing. Is everyone start the same?
Yes.
It's extremely meritocratic, fair. So me as a young kid from the outskirts of Milan, I was able like to travel the world, compete, meet many different people, and that's only based on my force of will. So yes. Gaming is important, and and it will is receiving the respect that deserve. Depends on the country, of course. In South Europe, it's perceived still like in a weird way. So I don't know. I think it's enough.
Okay, then a question I have on this topic then is, that's a very intriguing statement you made there, where you said that, you know, like psychologically, you know, there'll be times where you think you're a good player, you know, you're at the top level already, but you'll experience fear, or you'll be in a very uncomfortable situation. And I know from knowing a lot of pro players in many different games over the years, this is an aspect that isn't really played up, because actually a lot of pro players don't want to ever admit that. They actually think that, like, to have internal confidence, they think that they have to sort of be kind of like a bit of a propaganda agent. They have to be like, no, I was always going to win the game. I always knew I would. You know, oh, when that guy beat me, nah, he was just lucky. Or, you know, it was a close game. They never really kind of like show you the vulnerability, right? But for pretty much all players who've ever played at top level, there are times where you're really under pressure.
Of course. Well, it's different when you're competing enough and when you like look at your career after. I spoke to F.E.A.R recently in Italy, and we agreed on one point. If you want to be the best, you don't have to believe to be the best. You just have to feel it. I mean, it's something that you don't have like it's not a question of fate. I hope I will become the best. No, you're the best from day one. And this attitude that is a little bit, I don't know, egocentric, you can call it whatever it is foolish from a point of view. It's very important for a champion, because what you tend to become what you think. And if you start thinking while competing, well, top 3 is enough, I'm a very good player, I want to be like top 6 in Europe, that's not the right attitude to become a champion. If you want to be a champion, you just have to be straightforward. Say so. I like also a player like Sander. He's a player that can adapt very well during the same duel against the same opponent. I saw it with my eyes. You will see that maybe his strategy is not working. Whatever it is, what he's doing is not working against the guy. So he's humble enough to be like, you know, I cannot execute my original strategy. That doesn't make me, you know, inferior to my opponent. I will adjust and try to get my win. Oh. It's complicated, man. It's complicated. But if you want to win, when I was young, as a young player, I always thought I was the best, even when I lost. And I'm still sure that I was the best, even now. And everyone will give you the same answer if they're a dueler and they reach like top level.
Okay, so back in the days of esports being quite young, I actually used to collect a lot of the really great quotes. In fact, there was once when the website for Counter-Strike, ESEA, launched, where it was like a community where you paid to play, you know, we actually used to have a little bar on I think it was the bottom of the page. And one of the features we coded in was it would randomly rotate through a bunch of quotes that I'd put in the back end. And I actually had your quote on there that I referenced to you when I was setting this interview up, which is a great quote because it's got very like sort of evocative phrasing. The quote went along the lines of like, can you remember what the exact? I'll just double check. Wasn't it something along the lines of like a good play?
It was a quote. Well, I was very young at the time. I remember myself as a player. It was a quote about, of course, player has fears. They have fear. You have to compete with with other guys that you respect a lot. They're like brothers. You know how much sacrifice they did to be there with you. They're from all over the world and they have different stories. And of course, you will be afraid before the turn. You go and wash your hand, watch yourself in the mirror, and you have to play fatality. You have to play like this big player, and it's tough. So I was analyzing the fact that a very strong player can manage himself to control his fears, so that he will not be too emotional. And a god instead, because they asked me like the difference between a top player and a god that was like he has no fear, as he doesn't need emotion, he's emotionless. So also managing your emotion is something that I learned via gaming and also via playing poker online, because after I of course as a many player shift.
Yes. So I mean, this is actually the reason that's a great quote as well is because especially in the modern day, maybe this is kind of like American mentality leaking over, where there's a certain mentality some people have that you shouldn't differentiate too much between players. If players are top players, you should be like, they're all very good. This guy who's number one, yeah, he's good, but number two's good as well. But I know from my own experience and from watching a lot of sports that you can get people who, in terms of like skill level, they probably should have won all the championships. They were amazing. They were in lots of finals. But there's those guys where we all know there's some amazing players where there's a reason they came second a lot of times, And sometimes the guy that wins, he's not always the most talented guy, but there's something special about him that does go beyond the other players. And this has to play a role in it, right? It is kind of like mentality and the way they think of themselves in the moment, right?
Of course. Yeah, well, I saw many players. There are different kind of players. I like duellers. And maybe you will find a player that is in practice room is the best in the world, untouchable, and then he plays in a tournament and can pass top 16. Then you have this player that I don't know, he has a particular history against a top player and he will always win against him, or vice versa. You have like a guy, there is like, I don't know, like take Sander, there are like some dualism that are very complicated, like Sander, that is Wu versus Stermi. So they meet in the first time at Electronic Sport World Cup. It's a very, very, very close game in the final. Alex lose. So from there, Sander, when he played against him, always had a little bit of an edge. Yes. Or other situation when Sander started to lose some games against Fatality, and then fears start to creep in. I met many players, but can I say something? Can I say who's my favorite player of all time? I saw many players. I mean, I always been there. I was there in 2001, drinking beer with Stella Manslinger and spending time with Elke. And I was there in Rio de Janeiro, jogging on the beach with Fatality. And I was there with Strider. I always been there. I mean, I have a long history. So the best player that I saw, I remember one in particular. To me, the best player that I saw was Alexander Ingrav Strider. I seen many players. I still haven't seen anyone perform as his level during the World Tour and the stop of Chile. And another great player that I saw him when he was very young. It was Electronic Sport World Cup, I think 2006, wins one. It was Quake 4, and it was a young Cypher. Avik was there, watched the tournament because he couldn't compete. And I would spend some time with Bas, that he was the owner of Sirius Gaming. Yes. And we saw this kid, and Sam Matthew was there. He was the guy that also, I think he founded the Fnatic. Yes. And we were good friends, of course. Fnatic started also during the World Tour with the Counter-Strike team that came after, but the truth is that Fnatic started with three guys that are Sander Vukas-Jager, Gelezak, Andy Ryder, and Strider. And I remember I was speaking to Sam, and I told him, you have to sign this kid this evening, man. You have to. We saw him playing just one turn on stage, and he blew us away. And in the end, we discovered that his brother was a Belarus champion and so on. So he had a long history. Yes, two of the greatest players, of course. Also Alex Stermi is one of my favorite, and he's a great player. I could spend time talking about Stellam and what kind of person Stellam was. One of the greatest guy I ever met in my life. I can spend endless times talking about Alex Lexer, that was my teammate, and we lived together in Italy and a lot.
Okay, we'll get into all that. Don't worry. I'll serve up the menu as it will. I'll be the maitre d' on this one. So okay, here's the question though. To take it back a little bit, since your philosophy is like the game is just a vehicle, it's not just about the game, and you played all these different games. So why Unreal Tournament then? Because obviously Quake did exist and it's a similar type of game, and some people would say it's better, some people say it's worse. Why Unreal Tournament?
Okay, Unreal Tournament is a different game than Quake. I played both. I played Unreal Tournament when I had like, I don't know, I was disappointed by something that happened in a tournament, and I decided to switch. I wanted to play I wanted to be a complete dueller, so I played for 2 years and a half Quake 3, and played also tournament with the Italian team Tools. Because I wanted to be a complete. I wanted to be like, a very good player in a real tournament. I wanted to study the physics of Quake 3, and it took a long time, and if you ask me, a long time to learn Quake. But it was worth. Why a real tournament? Well, it's a very simple reason. My friend was playing that game. It was very easy to get online and play, as you can know. The game looks beautiful. It's a very, very nice game, has a beautiful feeling. I don't know, I have a particular relationship with the software, so also the way the avatar were portrayed to me was intriguing. The game is solid. The game was very solid, and it had a weapon that the shock rifle. It was different between and later in the franchise the weapon change. In the real tournament was a very powerful and particular weapon for dueling. You have a spear that is low, and it just moves around the map, moves straight forward in the map, and you can hit it again, and you will have a big splash damage in a tournament. So you will be able to cover corner and do sick predict shot. You will be able, to kill your opponent without even seeing him. The game was nice. To me was great. And in the beginning, dueling in a real tournament duels were not based on time. Not based on frag. It wasn't based on time. It was based on frag. Okay. The first guy that reached 10 frags will win. Duel. So what happens? It happens that you will also have like a duel that will last 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Okay, yeah, because no one wants to give up the last frag.
Exactly. There was a big clash of will, and you will have a duel that lasts 1 minute and 45 seconds on a huge map, and the guy is just and I will be playing, and I will be just standing in a place and do 3 spawn kill, because I will be counting like 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now he's doing this thing, and I shock with my shock rifle secondary, and then I hit, and I then hit again, whatever. But the game was great. He had a big scene. Then Rocket Arena came. There were a big team like Mortal Teamwork, Shook. Where Italian team was, I don't know, out of control. We had Elite, then there were like Fearless Beasts that were Lauke played. It was a long time ago, and the players were amazing. You have to understand, before a real tournament, on the scene, the 2 best players in Europe were one guy from Italy, Emilio, was around 30 at the time, and even had 2 kids. And the other guy that was the best player, his name was Scatrise. Maybe someone will remember, from United Soul of Independence, Uzi. And then he came to play with me with his brother. The game was great. It didn't change a lot. When I played Unreal Tournament 2003, I didn't like it because I didn't like the wall jump, and dodging was too wide. Dodging was just like small. And man, I practiced so much. So I would practice all day long. I was very committed when I was young. I wanted to win. I was the kind of guy that I would play every day like 3 hours offline, working on my movement and tricks on maps, and then I would play like 4 hours of duel, and then I would play 2 hours of deathmatch, because I have to be prepared. You have to practice every aspect of the game, write down strategy for my team at night. I was very committed. It was a great time. We had a blast, man.
Okay. Right, since you referenced there the shock rifle, for anyone who's watching the interview who doesn't know Unreal Tournament, one of the unique elements of Unreal compared to Quake was that you had these 2 modes of fire for each weapon. And so one of the most famous dynamics of the original Unreal Tournament was the shock rifle combo, where, as he said, you fire the slow, I think it was the secondary fire, right, was the orb, and then it goes very slow, but the idea is you can then shoot it with the first fire, the primary fire, and it makes the orb blow up and does splash damage. So it's kind of like, here's a way to conceptualize it. When in Quake, you fire a rocket at the floor to do the splash damage, it's like that, but if you then had to like fire another time, but then you had the component of the rocket's already in the air and it's moving slowly, and so there's a lot of kind of like mental mathematics in a way, like understanding the trajectory. What was so fascinating about this? Because I know everyone who played the first Unreal Tournament, this was like one of the things that seemed to hook everyone.
Well, what is fascinating because the skill cap level for the platform was very high. Imagine you have a weapon in Quake that is a rocket. Okay, same example, same splash radius, maybe a little bit bigger. That goes slowly, half speed, and say that you can switch weapon faster on railgun, and say that if you hit this rocket with your railgun, it will explode. Okay, so you will be able to cover an area. You're defending on ZTN and the mega health, so you ride this rocket and the guys goes in and you make it explode and the guys take like a lot of damage. What you could do? Well, you could do like, I don't know, you're engaging your opponent in the hallway. You shoot 2 orbs and then you choose which one to hit. You can do like crazy things, man. Crazy thing. And prediction too. It was great. It's had a great feeling. To me, also video games are based on feeling, on physics. Quake Champion has a good feeling when I get in. Also Overwatch as a game. It's very smooth, It's like candies. There are some games that just feel good. When you're in it, it just feels good. Like Quake, Quake 3, Quake Live, whatever it is. Painkiller too. Every game has a different physics.
So another aspect of Unreal that a lot of people forget actually that made it different from Quake was also the fact that you had like headshot components to it. So in Quake, obviously you can shoot someone in the toe and it's the same damage as if you shoot him in the middle of his body, But famously, obviously, especially with the sniper rifle, it had the Counter-Strike element of you shoot people in the head and you kill them faster. What do you make of that dynamic? Is it a good dynamic for a duel game?
It's a good dynamic for dual game. Oh, this is a difficult question, man. Video games change a lot. So if it was a good dynamic for a real tournament, for sure, because of how the health pool and armor pool was created for the game. You had a belt that was like a red armor, and it has 150 point, and as soon as you get it, you will not get any damage, any health. It's not like in Quake, you take like some damage on armor, some damage on health. Yeah. But I don't want to talk about the belt. So based on the game, it was all right. The game changed a lot. I mean, in the past, video games, FPS arena were also, let's say, games like StarCraft, of course, were more like a sport. It means that the skill cap was very high, very complicated to play, very hard to master, and less of a game. And this is the reason why career for FPS player in the earlier day will last till 24, 25. But now you have a different breed of game, and this trend was launched. Let's say that company like Riot, especially like Blizzard. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing for gaming, because imagine if we had to play Quake 3 today. Who would play that? No one, because the game is not very enjoyable. The learning curve is extremely hard. So also Quake, they also change it to the dual mode, so that is not like, okay, I got control and I spawn frag and impossible to break control. The last 5 minutes I run. So they wanted to make it more accessible. And they wanted to create a meta about hero, and I wanted to make it more like a game. So we have Toxic that just played the final at DreamHack and is 33. We have Sander that is still performing strong, and that's also impressive for me. The lifespan of a player, it completely changed in the last 10 years. But why? Because these players are still good? It's just because the platform where we perform changed. They became easier from a point of view, more a game rather than a sport. So it's not that you have to be perfect. You need to have like this 45% shaft, or you will not be able to play on the tour, because you will not be able to break control. No, this is not the situation. In Quake Champions, let's say with ulti, with the hero pick, when that you can do a counter, with the fact that control is important, but it's not so important, because if you were playing against a light tank, a light hero, as soon as you get to 225, you're almost good to go. It just change, man. It just changed. So as the games progress, they become more user friendly, and the lifespan of a pro gamer increase. And why also increase? Because the gamer maybe lose some of his point, you say, on skill. So his aim is not as good, but still his experience, his pure experience about platform, about gaming, make him like more clever, yes, than other guys. Toxic played today very, very nicely. Dang too.
So in the early days of Unreal Tournament, as I referenced before, the big tournament for Unreal, the big competition was WCG, World Cyber Games. And for people who weren't around back then, essentially it was kind of like the Olympics. Like you qualified based on your country, you represented your country, there was medals, it was like gold, silver, bronze. And not only because it was like the big tournament for Unreal Tournament, was it really key that players qualified if they wanted to be remembered, but there was also the component that, especially in the first couple of years, the first few of them were actually held in South Korea. And at the time, to travel to South Korea was very exotic for a lot of people. You know, there weren't the same sponsorships and travel expenses and stuff. So actually, I remember a lot of players in different games at the time. For some of them, especially if they weren't good enough to necessarily win the title, just getting to go to the tournament was amazing because they were like, you know, it's like going to another world and you get to at least be part of it. What were these first tournaments like when you got to go?
It was great. I remember the qualification for the World Cyber Games. I was a young, very proud player and very strong. Very strong. To me, gaming wasn't about myself or about winning tournaments or money. It was just about having a chance to have a spotlight to give a message. Message would be like, you know, I'm a normal person, just try to be a good to your neighbor, and that's it. For me, it was just like that. I wanted to game, to be able to give a message to the people that will watch me. That's it. And how it was in 2001. So I qualified without losing a map. I remember it. And I didn't sleep the night before. I just stood on my couch. I was 20. And went there, didn't speak to anyone, playing against a teammate. And I won like 21-0. And he was so upset at me because he was like, I thought we were friends, you know. Okay. Yeah. But I was so serious, so serious. To me mattered everything. And so we went to Korea with the national team, where a lot of us. It was a tough trip in a strange country, and we stayed in this huge building. Everything was managed by Samsung. We had a practice room. It was open 24 hours a day. Player will play there and practice 12, 16 hours like madmen. Players from all different countries, and it was fascinating because at that time there were no social, so you had no clue. Maybe the best player in Kazakhstan is a genius, or maybe the best player in Brazil. I saw a demo of this guy. Yes, because the only way you could see it, there was no Twitch, so it was mysterious. And well, it was a good tournament. I don't know. I mean, what to say. There were a lot of people. There were Pelle, there was Fats was there, and I remember Elki did very well, so they gave him a contract. They asked him to if he wanted to stay in Korea that year, and he decided to stay. They also asked to an Italian player that I will mention, Caf1. He also played Warcraft 3 during the Mad Frog era, and he beat it like I think. I'm not joking. Like in practice room, he beat like the best Korean. I don't know if maybe he was boxer, but he played against him like twice and won straight 2 games, and there was camera, so he became like super popular. And he told me that sites were made, you know, fan base, you know, for fans in Korea. Did I love this Italian? And they asked him like, come to Korea, and he was like, no, I want to stay with my mother in Rome. And the tournament was tough. I don't know. Well, it was a different time. I did very well that tournament. I remember one thing. On the last day, the Pullman will leave the building, and on my bus, I was the only one carrying a mouse and the keyboard, because of course during the last day is the day of final. And well, still even if I was very good, and I remember the American coach came to me. I played against the second qualified American player. I won 23-0, and so they came to me and was like, "You're gonna win the tournament. You're the best player." Blah blah blah. And I didn't lose a map for 3 days, nor in practice, official game. And then I played in the semi-final against GitzZz. That a great German player of a tournament. He will win that edition. But I was very proud, man. So instead of toss a coin to choose a map, I was this kind of player. I was like, what is your best map? It's deck 16, right? We're gonna play your map. Because I didn't care about the tournament. I just wanted to prove to be the best to everyone without any discussion. So I was just going to my opponent. Your best map is this. Okay, we play on your best map.
Okay, let me ask you this then. When you look back now as an older man, If you could go back in time now, would you be cynical and just say, actually, let's just play the map that I'm good on, or do a map veto, or would you do it again? Would you just say, okay, Gitz, we'll play your best map? Because as you said, basically, I mean, we know this now, but didn't necessarily at the time, but Gitz kind of was the best ever in Unreal Tournament, you know. So it's kind of it's very, very kind of cocky to do that, right?
The legends. I was a very good player, so I remember we used F.E.A.R. So German guys come to me and they give me this IP of this server where only the elite player of Germany plays, and it tells me you are the first foreigner that we invite here. And he invite me to see their best player, and it was a particular server where you could spectate, like 20-25 people could spectate. Usually it's only 3, and so I watched this guy play, and we played together also, like online, and I won, he won. We were very, very close. I mean, as a level, and to me, of course, I was better, man. And I was a different kind of player. Anyway, and we played on deck 16. I remember the map. I goes 1-0. I take the lead 1-0, and then he does a beautiful shot from the other side of the map with the shock rifle, shooting this ball. Okay, the secondary on the power up. Just time it, make it explode, get in the tele, kill me, get good control, and then he gets the game. That's I remember. That's how I lost. If I would change anything if I go back, no. But I was still also in the final of 2 versus 2 against Lauke and Rocks, I guess. And there was drama. As a player, I was tilty and I was nervous. And this is what happened. You tell me, you give me your point of view. So I'm playing the final with my best friend, the guy that taught me how to play the game. You know, the first guy that I told you, like, he phoned me and he's like, no, don't type, I'm gonna phone you. And he taught, we had master. My first teacher was him, Rio Saeba, Fabrizio Provenzale. My second teacher was Milio, the best player, you know, in Italy, and with the Scatrise and blah, blah, blah. And he taught me many, many things. And I also taught to many players. I also followed Stermi, let's say Shaggy, that also did very well at the year after World Cyber Games. He was British, and so we're playing the final, and we win the first map, Leandri, very well. And our opponents, there is the Netherlands team, start to argue, and one of them start crying. So I'm watching my friend. I'm like, okay, this is almost done. You know, we practically won. Okay, they're on tilt, we're fighting. One is crying. And a guy from organization come to me and be like, I'm sorry, you cannot finish playing the final because light is going to be turned off in this this mall. It was a huge building. You have to leave. You have to play the final in the practice room. And of course, I wasn't happy about that because I took my job. I mean, I took gaming very, very seriously. I practiced for endless hours all summer, all year to be there and to get there, you know, to get the final and to get my prize. And they're telling me, no, you have to stop. And I was young. I was 20, 21. So I tilted there, but still I was like, okay. I went to the opponent team and I asked them, let's do this. Let's have lunch together. You know, relax, we're still friends, you know. And then we play the final in the practice room. We were like, yes, of course, wait us here. I go there to have lunch, to have dinner with them. They are not there. And I have dinner with my friend, whatever it is, get back to the practice room after 1 hour, 2 hours, and they're there practicing. And of course, I'm enraged because I feel betrayed. I'm like, I'm not going to play the final, goodbye. And that's it. This is how I get my second place.
That's such a depressing story.
Yes, this is how it went. We were 3 in the national team, and I told 3 of the same team. My team was called DYE, like a tint, you know, die. I don't know the name in English, and it means defeat your enemies. That's it. That was my team, and 3 of us qualified out of 3 in the Italian qualifier. And the third guy was like, "You're here. You came here to perform. Now is your time. I will go to the room and just forget about this." And they lost 2-1, and this is how it went.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. So you referenced that you'd already practiced against GitzZz and you'd played him. Now this was obviously like, this tournament was really like his big moment because he won this World Cyber Games. Next year was also in the original Unreal Tournament. He won that one. He went back to back. He even came back later in Unreal Tournament 2003 and won ESWC there. So obviously the guy was unbelievable. What made him a champion then? Because if you're saying in practice you could play as well as him, and I've heard other players in Europe say that, you know, people like Lauke, they could go toe to toe with him, you know, but why in a tournament was he the champion? Why was he so good?
Why he was so good as a player? He just represented like the top of the German school for FPS during that time. A real tournament gave players more leeway on fantasy and the way you manage the duel, as you have two different type of fire for weapon, and you have probably more weapon than in Quake. And let's say that the German way will be to play shaft and rocket only. So you just do not engage from far distance. Okay. It's just like super strong positioning, very good timing on power ups, and shaft. And the shaft in a real tournament had the secondary fire rate had not. I mean, it's not like in Quake that you shaft as a trail, whatever it is, as there is a distance. We'll just go from one side to the other part of the map. Okay. So you will just control it like this: chip damage, hit damage, control. And this is German way to play. Why GitzZz was so good? He was a very calm, down-to-earth guy. Like him a lot. Met him very time, but we only played once, I think, in tournament. Oof. I don't know, man, honestly. We played together many times. So online, in tournaments, there were not a lot of tournaments. There was like CPL in 2001 in Holland, where B100 Def won against Fatality.
Yes,
there was also a real tournament there.
Okay.
Yes, we had our tournaments. Of course, there was Euro Cup, as you know. Clan base was beautiful. Clan base was great.
Sure. Okay. So another quick player I want to ask about was Lauke, the Dutch player.
Hello.
Because he is the player where, if you actually look at his career, he seemed to have a tortured career. Because everyone remembers the 2002 World Cyber Games. This is the one where actually you said the UK player Shaggy placed second. Everyone on paper was like, this should have been Lauke who wins this game and goes and plays GitzZz, and everyone thought Shaggy got a little bit lucky. I believe the game was on Turbine, right? And there's this epic sort of like semi-lucky moment, right? Was Lauke hard done by not like winning tournaments and not having the massive results? Was he a better player than his results show?
Lauke, I remember him well. Well, he reminds me of a Hearthstone player, Thais. You know him?
I don't know much about Hearthstone.
Okay. He was a very kind person. Trouble story because of family. I will not get into detail. Very sensible. Very skilled, very good team player. As a dueller, he was a little bit fragile. Maybe he didn't have the same composure as a player as GitzZz. There is, I don't know. It's like a tank. Sensible. He lost to Shaggy and came third in 2002. Damn, Shaggy. I remember him. I practiced. I prepared him for the tournament. He wasn't that good. That year, to me, the level of play was low for a real tournament in 2002.
Sure.
And I don't know, man.
As far as I remember, the thing about Shaggy as a player, right, was he was one of those players where even if he wasn't as good as a player as some of the people we're talking about, he had an attitude that was like, just didn't care.
Yeah,
and in a way that can help you sometimes, right?
Shaggy was that kind of player that is very young, very skilled. He can play one day and be the best player in the world, but usually he's just an average or very good player. Nothing flashy. The super player in a real tournament. Spat nuts. He was a dueller. You will not know the name.
Okay.
Who was good? Destruct. Jesus. Yeah, just
in the early days, yes.
Destruct was great. Yes, we had Lauke, GitzZz, me. I don't know. Skatrise was also good. I don't know, man. A long time ago, I didn't have like. I mean, I remember things. I remember Lauke played in a team that was called Fearless Beast. Yeah, he had a strong team. He was a very good player, but. MTW had very good dueller too. I don't know. It was a huge scene. It was, to me, that were like the golden age of gaming. We will have like LAN party with tournaments for Quake, free duel, and 128 people will play. And hardcore gamer, and the same for a real tournament, and 16 team coming, and 256 people playing a tournament of StarCraft, and you had 12 different provider in Italy. It was the big boom, First ESDN line, different, man. Different also the way you behaved in the community. I want to say this. I mean, people, you're young. Okay, in our community, my community was like this. You are in a clan. It's not a team. It's called a clan. Okay, yes. And there might also be tension between clans, but the respect was always there. And this, what does it mean? It means that if I had to write on the official forum of the community, I couldn't. I had to ask the permission to my clan leader, and he will post what I wanted to say in the right way. I couldn't do it. Or I couldn't go and, I don't know, everything was so mannered, like romantic, like in medieval, okay, our best new member wants to fight against one of your pupil. So the teacher will meet, spectate, bring their pupil, and the pupil will duel, Yes. That was great. I love it, man.
Okay. So it sounds like, as you've been describing here, you're clearly someone who didn't just see it as a game. You kind of saw this romantic aspect of, first of all, accomplishment and achieving satisfaction from getting better. But also, I was interested where you said the part about how you kind of had a mentor. You had a figure who taught you the game and who you learned the game from, etc. Right? I have noticed in the history, especially in duel games, because it's such an intense craft, it's just you. There's no teammate you can blame. You can't just get a better teammate and do better. Players have to really kind of dedicate themselves. And I have noticed some of the great players have always had a connection where they either had a friend or an older player who was better. Is this important to you, the idea of that you get a mentor and someone who's going to help you learn the game as opposed to just playing the game and trying to figure it out yourself?
I think it's very important. Also these days, I think also dueller should have a coach or someone that follow them, watch their game, and give them some feedbacks, help. It happened. I mean, also maybe let's say Avek with Cooler help Avek, I think, in his career. Cypher always speak to me like a conversation he has with Cooler. So there is this thing, and it's important. I had many mentors, and I also taught many players how to approach in the right way the platform, this value. And I will tell you a story. It was very touching for me. So, Stermi, Alex, he has a brother, Hal. He also played in Sacrifice and played Duel. He's a good player. He's a very good player. And he's more of a talent, he's stream mostly rather than, trying to compete. He's a good Overwatch player. And one day I met him, Tommy, his name, and I met him, and I already met him a few times. So we spent some time talking together, and he gave me his point of view on a delicate situation that regards the Overwatch Italian community that I will not get into details. And then I spoke back to Alex, and I told him, your brother really reminds you, he's very strict, he doesn't accept no compromise. He has a total faith for the game and this and that. And it was touching because Alex told me, these are the value that you and Chick, was the founder of his first team, that is Tools, taught me when I was a teenager, when I was a kid. And I couldn't not pass this same value to my brother as I was mentoring him. I think this is nice, no? From esport, is a victory.
Sure. Okay, so an interesting detail I've noticed. I'm a little bit confused about this. Okay, it sounds like an inconsistency, but maybe you can explain it. So when you were explaining before in the beginning of the interview about the game as a platform, and therefore, ideally you'd want the platform to have a lot of versatility, and it would be possible to do a lot of different things and have a lot of different skill sets like games like Quake and Unreal did. But then you also, when you were talking about the modern day of esports, you actually sounded very kind of forgiving of the modern esports games, because a lot of the hardcore players will say, oh, they're just watered down, they're not so good. You were kind of outlining why, there's a positive to that, because obviously, you'll get a lot more casual players and therefore the game can be big. But here's my question though. How does that apply to Unreal though? Because unlike Quake, unfortunately, so Quake 3, because it got to live on again with being revived a couple of times, and then Quake Live basically was very similar to Quake 3, people who were Quake players kind of got the luxury of, they really could play the hardcore game for like 10 years basically, like, a couple of years off at times. But Unreal, because it immediately had its sequels, and the sequels clearly did get quite drastically different, a lot of people I know who even really loved Unreal Tournament, the original, said that it lost the spirit of Unreal, you know, like it just like they weren't like, for example, a lot of them didn't even care when that recent Unreal came out, like the last year or something. So how does it apply when we talk only about the Unreal series? Presumably you're not as forgiving of that, right? Do you think it lost the spirit of Unreal?
Oh man, you are asking me about a platform that I didn't study a lot. I mean, I didn't study the platform a lot. I mean, the new Unreal tournament.
Isn't that telling though? I mean, you were a guy who was super into Unreal, so you should be the ideal audience, right?
Yeah, man, but now I don't want to be rude, but I'd rather play Quake. I'd rather play Quake, bro. No, I mean, what about Unreal Tournament? The last one, the last Unreal Tournament, that is almost a remake of Unreal Tournament 99. It looked very good. But for me, I mean, if there is no community, there's no game. That's it.
Yes.
I mean, the support that the developer give to the game helps him survive. If there is no reason to practice, no one will play your software. I mean, I need a top end, a tournament, and this is happening with Quake Champions, and I'm very grateful for this, because ID Software, whatever, Bethesda, are supporting very well their platform. People can complain about it, can say like, oh, classes are not nice and blah blah blah, but still, to me it's positive because it gives another layer to the game itself. But we were talking about Unreal Tournament.
Yes.
Man, I had a conversation with Sander, who, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we were sitting down. He was talking about League of Legends, and he told me this. Man, listen, FPS Arena is dead. Why? Because people don't want to see other people shoot at each other. I don't know, people want to see tiny, fluffy bear casting spells and no blood on screen. That's what his concept. It was like, our breed is this time, we will disappear because you cannot do it. You cannot mainstream something where a guy has to kill his opponent. It's too rough.
Okay.
It will not be accepted. So in a real tournament, it's a dinosaur for me, this kind of platform. The FPS Arena, now with Quake Champion, fine, we have a meta, we have a new kind of duel that is more game-based. You just have that outburst of skill in that particular fight. It's not that you have to keep control, timing 3 items like a cyber athlete. You can be a pro gamer. You don't have to be a cyber athlete. This is a very different thing, being a pro gamer and being a cyber athlete. For a real tournament, it depends how they will develop their platform, what kind of game mode they will put, if they're gonna put classes. But the game needs some layer, and the game has to be accessible to the masses. What does it mean? It means that either you do it with a short learning curve, or you put in a very good Elo system that will match players with very similar skill to each other so that they don't lose interest. But as now, to do it for an FPS Arena, I don't know. Man, games are changing fast. Platforms are changing fast. The way we play games will be changing in 5 years. Probably will not use mouse and keyboard. We will use something different. The peripheral, this is the name in English, are changing fast. Everything is developing fast, man. So as a structure, I don't know. I like the concept like Smite. I study all games. I could cast any games, and now I'm studying League of Legends in a very detailed way. I'm kind of guy that I can study. Like I will study Smite for a year and never play a game. I will study even Terra 2 to understand this game. That is a completely different game. It's like WoW. I study all kind of games, and I follow all esports. I watch Evo. And I can understand the skill set that the guy is showing, no? So to me, every tournament is beautiful.
Okay.
Not like I don't understand. No, I understand StarCraft, whatever it is. And I like the concept like Smite or Overwatch. So you have like a standard first-person FPS interface with a MOBA concept. So you have heroes in Smite. You have a skill shot, but the skill shot is like an FPS. And you're playing with a real engine. So uniting, different element of different games to make it more complete. Also Fortnite is the same experiment. So you have like a battle royale that is an FPS. It's a structure as an FPS, but it's a battle royale because you play in 100, and it has elements of farming. So after you create Fortnite, and you go one step further, and you add elements of Ark to Pack B, to Pack G, and go on. But I'm just talking too much.
All right. Okay. So you said that you actually did switch from Unreal, and that you started trying to learn Quake 3, and it took you years, and you said it was difficult.
Yes.
Like, obviously, everyone will know the very, very simple differences. Like, obviously, the movement is it's very instant in Unreal Tournament, whereas famously in Quake, there's a kind of inertia, there's kind of like slow physics. There's also, obviously, the weapons are slightly different, no secondary fire. But when you say it took you that many years, though, what are the big differences for you between how like a Quake game is played and how an Unreal Tournament? Like, what were the concepts you had to learn? What was so tough about transitioning?
Oh, the movement physics. That was so complicated. In a real tournament, I love the physics. I love walking and having a single dodge and a jump. That's perfect. That's everything you need when you're engaging. The fighting at close range in Quake compared to a real tournament is just shit. This is how it is. You're just standing, you just dodge strafe,
yes,
do a half jump, and you try to put the rocket as close you can do to do the maximum damage. And that is it. This is how Quake is. Quake is beautiful when it's fast-paced, like in Painkiller, that you have this fight when we're playing now in Quake Champions. If you're watching Slash versus Slash, or you're seeing a good anarchy, it looks like CPMA, whatever it is, beautiful, whatever. In a real tournament, fighting, like close fight, were much more complex. Also, the map itself had elements where you can cover, you can jump on, you can ambush, whatever it is. So it was more complex. The difficulty was strafing, man. I will sit down and it took me 6 days to do the jump on DM6 to the bridge to the rail, and that's not easy. And when you're starting from zero and you want to go as soon as possible, try to compete at the best level. But I can tell you this, after 2 weeks of practicing, well, of course, it took me 2 years and a half to become a solid Quake player. But still, after two weeks and a half, I was practicing only on T4, and I was already doing well. I remember I lost in overtime versus Booms, that he also played in the World Tour. He was playing Quake 3, and it was his favorite map. But because I remember why. The reason wasn't my movement. My aim was very good, but mostly because I was very good at keeping time. So I will just time both yellow, mega, and rail easily because I was playing as an international player in a real tournament. So for me, this came naturally. Which game is more complicated with the other difference between the two? Man, it's difficult for me. It's difficult for me to explain in Italian. In English, it's even harder.
Okay.
I tell you this.
Okay, then since you've referenced Painkiller, obviously that was another phase of your career. They had the Painkiller World Tour, and I think it was like 10 stops overall, because I believe the last one, the final. So I think there was 9 in the final off the top of my head. Yes. And it really was a world tour, every month. In fact, certain ones, there was week to week, it was going around the world. And the weird part about it, though, is because they picked Painkiller, and Painkiller was a very niche game, unlike, for example, where you're saying there, like Quake and Unreal were grassroots games. As you're saying, you could hold a LAN party, and it might be in Italy or in Germany, and 100 people might play in the duel, and, like 90 of them we probably couldn't name now. They were just hardcore players back then who played. Now, Painkiller, obviously, was quite a small group of actual pros. It was basically the same pros going from stop to stop to stop. And in fact, in the game itself, this is something I've got a reflections coming up with Vu, who obviously was the best player in that game. And he even says one of the few things about Painkiller that maybe is a bit different from other games is that generally, like the things that you were good at, everyone had to be good at the same things. There wasn't really like very super unique styles, he said. So to him, it made sense as to why, a lot of the results were quite consistent. Whoever won tended to win most of the events. Whoever came top 4, like, top 5, Sturmy, tended to just come top 5 all the time. There weren't that many crazy, except people like Strider, who had the one-offs where they could just go nuts and just win the tournament, Right, on this tour, first of all, just give me like the sense of what it was like, because I mean, as I said, it was just a group of maybe 20 people total who were going to a lot of these tournaments. It wasn't many, right? It was kind of a close-knit group.
Okay, I will tell you something about Painkiller. Now, I want to tell something to your audience. To me, I played many games. I played many FPS. You ask anyone who played Painkiller, Painkiller is the best FPS that was ever made. It's the one that pushed the human to his like, I don't know, to reach like his limit. Because it was so fast, man, and was so difficult and still rewarding. No game is tough and difficult as Painkiller. Listen, and regarding the fact about the small community, yes, it was like that. But I want to tell you this: in Spain was the second stop, and all the best player from all the scene tried to compete all around the world. What do you think? 1 million tournament, and what do you think? They were like Gopher from Ice Climber. Yes. They started practicing Painkiller, and top player for Counter-Strike 1.6. They started practicing Painkiller, and then Spain came, and it was 64 people playing in that tournament. So it wasn't a small stop, you know.
Okay.
And after you play against the field and you see how difficult the game is, and you understand that there is Sander, Wu, there is Rat, they played pro mode for a long time, the game is similar, they have an edge, people simply gave up. It's not that people tried. Man, I tell you, man, a lot of people tried, but the game was only for the best of the best. So you had me from a real tournament, and then you had a guy from Quake, and then you had a guy from, all the best, most iconic player from the last 7 years. They gathered together to play this platform that was only for the elected kind, you know. It was beautiful and mysterious and has some tricks you can do in Painkiller, some aspect of the physics that are absolutely fascinating. The game, beautiful. How was like to be on the World Tour? Man, it was a fantastic experience. I'm still friends with most of the player. I don't know. I told you I'm a romantic. To me, it's like going to war, you know, together. Sure. It's like band of brothers. So I see Sander when he's 32, and he watched me, and we look at each other, and you know how it is. It seems like we always been seeing each other, and time hasn't passed. And I know who he is. I know him because I saw him playing on the platform, and he saw me. So we know exactly who we are, and there is a huge respect. And these things also stayed this day. It doesn't matter. I mean, when you've been there, when you played on the tour, there is a kind of bond that creates between players.
Okay. So on this tour, like obviously, as I said, so many stops, so much prize money, because the results often were very, very consistent. Like I said, you know, people who won tended to win, and then people who came top 5 tended to come top 5. You were in the group that never really broke through. You never got the big finishes. Like, in practice, were you good in Painkiller? Did the game suit you?
Well, the Painkiller as a platform didn't went well for me. Well, I had many problems, man. I wanted to pursue the career of an esport player, so my parents kicked me out of the house. And I was living at Boom's house. And maybe I will stay with that money for 2 weeks, and I will eat Chinese, I don't know, rice from the Chinese restaurant for 1.10 euro once a day, because I was poor and broke, but I still was on the world tour. I will go to Brazil and play there for 2 weeks with 50 euro and only eat breakfast at the Sheraton. This was my life. So it was very, very tough for me to perform. What was my level? When Stermi came back from the tournament, from the Electronic Sport World Cup, we played 3 games in Milan on LAN. 2 games, and the first one on Sacred I won, and the second one he won. So I was very good. That's why they called me to play on the World Tour. And then I underperform. It happens. I accept it. It's not the end of the world. And there were also other issues. Like, some of the players got a little bit fucked up because we started to play. Man, I don't know if I can say this thing, man, about mouse and brand and so on. But let's say that there were like some mouse that were very fashionable, and some player decided to use it. And I was using a Logi MX 300. That was like the new pilot.
Classic.
Yes, a classic. It was a beautiful mouse. I switched because the other one looked flashy and so on. And I just played like shit, and I had problems. I was tilty, and it was tough for me also to play against my friend. I remember like playing against Sander or playing against Strider. I remember in the final I was playing against Lexer. And we share the same room. And I know his issues. And he's sending money to his mother via Western Union because he also has trouble home. I will not get into details. A lot of players had a very dramatic story, and it was tough for them to be there, you know, to find like the peace of mind to perform or even practice. And I know he needs more than me, and I win map 1, and during map 2 I'm winning, and I turn around just an instant, and I see him like almost crying and hitting like his punch on the desk, and that kind of things also affected me. So one thing or another, the World Tour, I underperformed, but it was still a great experience, and I had my moments.
Okay, right. Give me your thoughts, and since you were around those players and you got to go to all these tournaments, like. You've talked about V.E.A.R already. Why was V.E.A.R just the best Painkiller player?
Okay, why was Wu the best Painkiller player? I don't know why Wu was the best Painkiller player. I can tell you like what Wu was for me and how I saw him. Wu was a new breed of player, very young, but his mentality was the one of the old schooler. So what happened during the World Tour? So during the World Tour, they created two sides. On one side, there was Jonathan Fatality Wendell. I say hi to him. He's a great guy. Whatever people say, Jonathan, great guy, a great player, one of the greatest, if not the greatest. And so from one side there was Fatality, like the super professional guy. He gives party in the hotel room, and there is only Sprite and Smarties. And he goes jogging and don't smoke cigarettes, whatever it is. He will not stay with the locals. He would just stay with his manager and has all these brands sponsoring him. And from the other side there was Sander. And Sander was like our champion, the champion of the people. He will go to stops. He will stay with the local. He will spend time with Relic, Carnage, all this guy. Okay. He will mess around and go party with us. And he will have like the same value that a guy like Emilio, that was my teacher, had. Respect for his opponent, dedication for the game, very well mannered, but still just wanted to have fun. Stay with his friends. Sander, to me is I don't know. To me, is one of the greatest. What do you want me to say? Sander Vukasjager. He stands a legend, Duncan. He stands a legend. I was there, man, and I was there, and I was there when he failed in New York in Times Square. I remember it clearly.
What's your theory on that? Why did he lose that match?
I don't know. I remember it was a tough day. I mean, I tell you, man, I was very close with all of them because I was the older player, probably the oldest player on the tour with John. So I already had many tournaments, I did the World Cyber Games, so people know me and knew that I had a lot of experience. So younger player would come to me after a hard loss, and because they knew I will have the word for them, to calm them down. And Sander came to my room, and the day after we just stayed together. He didn't want to have any media obligation, nothing. He just came to my room to hide. And we spoke a lot about the final. He needed to vent, and for him was tough, man. For him it was tough because you have to understand when you're a young man. No, and Sander, I'm sure he will not get upset if I speak about this. If you're a young man, he will tell me like, man, all my life experience, I came to this moment here in New York in Times Square, and I won the winner bracket final, and I play against John. And I lose straight up 4 maps, like bam, bam. And what does it make? What does this teach me? What is the lesson that I get from the game? What is the lesson that is portrayed? What is the painting? He was kind
of confused.
Yes. What is the painting? I mean, this is something that you carry with you for all your life. There are games that are tough on players.
Yes.
I saw players breaking up in duels after a tournament. I will never be the same. There are games that change you, man. Like another game that was tough. When Strider played against Fatality at the World Cyber Games in Quake 4, it was to me, was a very touching, was very dramatic because Strider was the pupil of Wu. So we all adore Strider. He was this young kid from Sweden, and before he was playing a Lord of the Ring game on a console, and the day after he was playing Painkiller, and it was amazing, amazing, like beautiful to watch Strider playing Painkiller. And of course the World Tour final happened, and of course Strider is looking for revenge for his master, and now he has to play Fatality. And they play on Galang, I think. And Strider goes up like something 12-0, 13-0. But he still lose that map. Because Jonathan Fatality Wendell used dark magic. And he's a very, very strong player. And never, ever give up, man. John. Man, I boot camp with John too, with Fox for 1 week together, and so I had time to spend with him, with John,
Yes.
and he's a very humble guy. People can say whatever they want. You can sit down with John, you can talk about a game, you can talk about strategy, and he will listen to you, and he will agree with you on the point that you are right. He's not the kind of guy that will tell you, yeah, but you cannot talk about this, or no, my opinion is more important because I'm fatality and I want this and that. No, John was the most humble and hard-working guy that I ever met in my life. I will go to bed, I will wake up in the morning and Jonathan will be practicing, and I will go to bed and Jonathan will be practicing. And when I wake up the day after, Jonathan is still practicing. And I ask myself, when the guy is sleeping, Jonathan will go in Rocket Arena and play and be like, when I will do 666 impressive, I will stop.
Okay.
And I will do it every single day, and every single
This
day.
is something actually that it's funny when you said like the divide between the players, because it's actually quite famous, especially in the early days of esports, that there were a lot, because most pro players were just very good at the game. It wasn't that they were like professionals, some of them didn't even practice that much. A lot of them actually used to kind of make fun and poke fun at Fatality, because they would always use the logic of like, oh, you're too serious, like you're kind of a try hard.
Yeah.
And a lot of them would talk as though, oh, if I practice as much as you, I would win. And I've always said to people, that's a skill in itself. Like you couldn't practice that much, like you'd die if you tried to just play 14 hours every day. You'd lose your mind, wouldn't you?
Exactly. No, Jonathan was very strong. He as a player was very balanced. He had his preparation is the same of the pro gamer today. He had strict diet, went jogging twice a day. Very clean. I'm from, like a player like me, I was, oh my God, I was throwing party in hotel room and drinking and doing all kind of foolishness, and then I will have to go and perform, and it's crazy. Sander, what else about Sander? I don't know, man. To me, I don't know. I almost cry every time I see Sander, because I know his story. And when he was playing at the QuakeCon,
yes, and
he got second place again. And I spoke to him when he was in Italy, and I saw Sander. He was satisfied. I told him, to me, like him as a wild card, because he should have qualified, because he lost the game against Kielsen in the qualifier, and then he meet against Kielsen at the QuakeCon and he beats Kielsen, and then he goes to the final. And for me, it was such a touching story. He plays with the picture of his mother, and I know what happened, and I saw him developing, and I always rooting for him, because he's a good guy, man. Sander is a good guy.
Okay, I've got a question for you then. This is a purely hypothetical. Could Vu have practiced like Fatality, and if he had, would he have just won all the stops?
No, man, listen, we practice. We practice. Like me, usually the bootcamp were like me, Stermi, Booms, Forrest, Sander, Strider, Gelle, Stellam, and ZYZ. So we were very close to Fnatic as Play It, because we had the same, we had the Intel, all of us. Shoret Commando, Fnatic, and Play It. Three main team, and all of them we had Intel, so we went to the Intel in Portland, to do the tour, whatever it is. So we will also practice a lot together, and we practiced, man. I didn't a lot, of course, because I didn't know, whatever. I had my issues, but they practice. I can tell you this. It's not that they didn't practice. They practice. Not as John, okay. Yes. Not as, but don't worry that we will put for like 6 hours of LAN practice every day. So if Sander would have practiced, like, he didn't need to practice as John. John practiced so much. Why did John practice so much? Because John, there was some, I don't know, there was some kind of fear in him, of not being at the level. So he had to sink that fear with the practice.
Yes.
He didn't need it.
I've heard this is actually it's actually a famous quote. I can't remember by who, but it says something like preparation takes away fear, because the idea is, if you didn't practice 100%, you can always have that in the back of your mind. Oh, maybe I could have worked on that. If you practiced 100%, even if you lose, you're like, well, nothing more I could do there,
Well, I remember, like when I practice for tournaments, man, I knew before playing the tournament if I will win or not, and I always played and always practice a lot, because for me it's like in school. It's the same situation. I mean, I will go there and I will be like, I will win the tournament. People will ask me why. because I made more sacrifice than everyone else. I practice more than anyone else, and this gives me some kind of assurance. This gives me some kind of edge that other players will not have. I'm sure 100% that here at this venue, I'm the guy that is most well prepared. So I will win, and you get this confidence, and you will win, man. You visualize, law of attraction. Yes. This shit.
Okay.
This shit.
So I remember you were one of the few people who played that game F.E.A.R, F.E.A.R, which was a game that actually was one of the last CPL games before it originally got shut down, right? What was this game like? Like, give a little sense of what type of a game it was, and then what was this very brief kind of foray into that game like for you?
So what happened? CPL World Tour ended, and game was released for the next year. And for some reason, I don't know, Valencia, I don't know who decided to pick up F.E.A.R. That was a console game. So Booms phoned me and tell me, like, let's prepare the game together. There is the first stop in Italy. We don't have any team, but we could go. I'm like, all right, man. Price looks good. So we practiced 2 weeks. And it's a console game. So you're not playing with mouse and keyboard. You're playing with a pad. And it's the first time that we're playing on pad and FPS. Maybe it's the first time we're playing on an Xbox. But we practice hard because we are professional, me and Booms. And we go to the tournament, and it's not like it's never easy to win, and it's not that the tournament was a joke. I mean, people wanted to commit. Tronic was there. He also played in the World Tour, and Painkiller. There were a few people that were there also on the tour before. And what for me is very interesting, the first stop I won. Remember, I stopped practicing 2 days before the tournament. I was in the room, and I stopped, and I looked at Vincenzo. I told him, I'm ready. I don't have to play anymore. I'm ready. This is the best I can. I've capped. And I remember I went back home and I spoke to a friend of mine, and he will tell me, how will you do tomorrow in the tournament? And I had to win, man. Because my life wasn't easy. I had a lot of struggle. I was like, I will win. I went to bed. I was thinking, I will win this tournament. If I play as I saw it with my eyes, I will win. And I won. And what is interesting is that I was the oldest player on the league. And I wasn't the one that practiced more F.E.A.R than anyone else. I assure you about this. There were like French people that came from France that were playing the game from day one, okay? And were sure about winning. But what for me was very interesting is that as an older player, I managed to master the game faster than younger player. So it means that experience on software or video games or platform, name it however you want, is important. And I think that this thing is being displayed also in Quake Champions, because the semi-final was Dahang versus Rafa and Toxic versus Cypher. And Toxic is 32, and he's not supposed to play an FPS arena at such a level. Young players are struggling. Why? Because older players adapt to the meta faster since they have more experience. So younger players have an edge regarding game and regarding the fact that they were playing with Anarchy from day one, and then things change and whatever. I mean, I don't know. This is just a thing that I'm considering. Then what happened? So I win the first stop. And of course, it's amazing. And then the second, and then of course the community got very upset. We were like, oh, but this game is shit and blah blah blah. It's not a real FPS and this and that. So I decided to withdraw from the World Tour. Even if I had the first seed for DreamHack, and I would have been top 3 material easily because I won the tournament 2 weeks before. So not a lot of things will have changed. But to show respect towards the community, I just decided to withdraw, and that's it.
Okay. So here's the question then. There have been other duel games since then. We had Quake Live. Obviously now, as you've mentioned many times, we've got Quake Champions. I've noticed in Quake Champions, you were doing like analysis desk, or you're the commentary, you're more on the talent side of the equation now. Why not be a player again?
Why not be a player again in Quake Champions? Well, I played a little bit Quake Champions. I was very impressed by myself after 1 week, 2 weeks of playing. Very impressed. Looked good. I also saw Alex, saw me, and other players were looking good, looking strong. Also other players were looking good. Like take a guy like Carnage. Saw him streaming. He was also playing all right, and he also has his limit as a dueller, whatever it is. why I didn't decide to play Quake Champion, because I'm a streamer and I play Hearthstone now. That's my platform for 3 years, and I stream in Italian. And I'm a streamer. I'm not a pro gamer. I'm not a cyber athlete anymore. And I know what kind of sacrifice I would have to make to be able to win. And I don't want to do that. I already competed. I had a long career. I had my success, and I'm very satisfied about it. And now is another phase of my life, and I don't need any answer, man. Duncan, I don't need any more answer. I got all the answer. Even when you win, you get answer. When you lose, you get answer. I got all the answer about myself. Now by playing, it's just like a perfect portrait of myself. You know. I don't need any more, I don't know, any stroke of brush. I don't need it anymore. Everything is clear to me. I don't have to prove anything to myself. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I got all my answer. And I thank the game for that.
Is playing Hearthstone fun?
Please, playing Hearthstone fun. Why? People will ask me, oh, Ricky, but how is it possible that you're playing Hearthstone every day on stream, 6 hours a day for 3 years? How can you manage to do that? It's simple. Why do I play Hearthstone? Because it makes me feel better, Duncan. That's why I play. That's why I play Hearthstone.
Okay.
Because for me, it's a craft gaming, and it's important to keep it in shape. And it gives me pleasure when I see how I'm sequencing the cards and how I decide to build a deck, and some kind of analysis about the meta that I discover. It makes me feel. It makes me recognize myself. I mean, I'm good at that. I'm good at gaming, no? So there is a sense of realization. How do you say it in English, man?
Realization.
Accomplishment,
yes.
That's why if I would play Hearthstone like shit, I wouldn't play it. So in my life, when I do something, I try to do it as I mean it, in the proper way. And as long as you put an effort in what you're doing, you should get result, and you should also enjoy it. That's why when I stream, I speak to kids, Duncan, and they're like, I don't want to go to school. School is boring. You know, school is stress. Yes. And I tell them, you know why school is a stress for you? Because you do it as shit. Because if you would put some effort in it and try to get decent grades, you will start to enjoy it. It will not be a stress. It will not be a pain in the ass that you are not studying and you don't know math and this and that. Put an effort. And then you hate it because the display that you have of yourself is of a mediocre person. Yes. That's why you don't like it. That's your feedback when you're studying in high school. And that's why you don't like it. So it's the same for me for gaming. I play Hearthstone because I'm good at it and it makes me feel good.
Okay. When you referenced before that you'd learned Smite and you're learning League of Legends, is there some kind of idea to have a career as some sort of an analyst or a commentator in these games? Is this something you're hoping to expand into?
No, I don't, Duncan. Okay. The reason why I stream, as for the reason why I game, is not because I want to go on the stage for Asus and throw T-shirt, and I don't care about casting. Of course, if they call me to cast Quake, lovely, perfect. I will do a very good job. I will be very technical, nice. I will behave like a professional. I will enjoy it. That's it. To me, not. To me, what is important is reaching for people here via the stream and create a community of human beings that try to help each other, because the world is very tough. So as a streamer, unfortunately for your audience, I stream in Italian, but I would like it, I guess, a lot if I would stream in English. We are a community, real community, man. Like someone has to change the sink in the kitchen. There is a guy from our community. Okay. Everything is done between us. And you need help. You need help. You need a shoulder to cry on. You have a problem. It's 3 a.m. and you don't know what to do. There is the community, and we all brothers, and we all equal, and we try to help each other, and we share the same value of self-respect. And I don't know, friendship, of course, respect also towards the other, and the same passion that is video game. It's a real community. So I wasn't interested about money when I was very young, like 16, a teenager, and I'm still not interested in money. I'm interested in time. And in people.
At the end of the interview, do you have a final message or something you want to thank or say hello to if they watched it?
If I want to say thanks, I want to give a shout out to all the players from the World Tour of 2005. And I still remember you, and I speak about you in my stream. You will not be forgotten. And I don't know. I want to thank the dojo, that is my community, and all the people who ever support me. All my mentor, from Fabrizio Riosaeba to my first clan leader, Alessandro Memphis Allocco. He stands a legend too, man. I know so many great players. I will have a lot of story to talk about Socrates, Lexer. I mean, people just see when the guy is performing, yes. How he game. But when you know what is behind, I don't know. When you see a great player, there is also a great individual. I don't know how to put it down, but man, I don't know. This is the law. With Stellam, you see a guy like Stellam, you see a guy like Lexer, Socrates. Fatality, Sander, Vukasjager, Cypher. They all have particular story. They all have their own values. They all are great. So I thank everyone who supported me during my career and people that are still supporting me. And I thank you for having me here. It was an honor and a privilege, man.
Grazie.
He's definitely brutal. He's always savage, and you're definitely getting wrecked.